Western Conference podcast live from Las Vegas. And I have Farrington High's own, the legendary Mr. Jesse Sapolu in the building. How you doing, Jess?
Doing good, brother. You know, coming out here to Vegas and check out what you're doing. And I've seen you progress over the years, man.
Man, it's been a long time. I've been hounding Jesse for this interview for many, many moons, but it's just good to have you in here. And, you know, you're in town to do the Polynesian Bowl here at Bishop.
Yes, we have a Polynesian Combine and Showcase. You know, it's become the only game that's televised on the NFL Network, so we're very proud about that.
We're working hard. But before we get into that, I always like to go to the beginning, Jesse. I'm talking about the days where we're going from Samoa to Hawaii because I always want everybody to know your full story. So let's go back to the beginning, from Samoa before you even transitioned over to Farrington High School. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, my dad and my mom, you know, we were ministers in Samoa. In 1970, they decided to move us to America for a better education. So we moved to LA for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then he got called to be a minister in Hawaii. So we moved to Hawaii, and I grew up there for 14 years.
Yeah.
But when I came, Big Cisco, you know, I didn't even speak a word of English.
I was about to tell him. English was a second language to Jesse.
You know,
yeah.
And sometimes, you know, towards my last 5 years with the Niners, I was kind of like the spokesman of the team. And, you know, it makes you think back about God's blessings. You know, never thought I would be put in that position. A kid that came from Samoa, didn't speak a word of English. And, you know, sports allowed me to thrive, not only in school, but you know, become, you know, affiliated with sports in America and make that transition.
How was the love for football started in Samoa when you were in Hawaii or in LA?
It started in LA.
Yeah.
You know, as flag football, I was introduced because when I came from independent Samoa, rugby was a sport.
Yep, rugby was the game.
When I came to LA, they put me at running back. I was pretty fast for my size, but as you know, Cisco, you know, as you move up, you know, they stop moving you forward, and then
you start gaining the weight. Then you start getting on the line. Like, what am I on the line for? Yeah.
You know, it's hard to have a running back that's 245 pounds as a freshman. So
now you're fullback, tight end. Now you're on the line, right?
Yeah, you know, and it just shows you the kind of talent that's required in the NFL, because you know we used to run those wide sweeps with Roger Craig and Guy McIntyre and I. They, you know, Bob McKittrick would have to have guys that run 4.9.
Legend Bob right there.
Yeah, to get out there and you know, run those wide sweeps, and that was a mainstay of our offense. And
going to Farrington High School, what did you go into Farrington as a lineman?
Well, I went to Farrington as a defensive end.
Oh, see? Many hats Jesse wore, many hats.
So, you know, you wanted to sack the quarterback and, you know, as a big lineman, but obviously, you know, I tried offensive line and that was my calling. So went to UH as an offensive tackle and then reported in as a freshman. And I went to the offensive tackle meeting room and they pointed me to where the centers and guards were meeting. So,
and you were like, hold on.
Yeah. They were like, you know, 6'3" is not tall enough to play tackle. So you're becoming a guard in the center, and that's what I carried myself as a 49er for 15 years.
And we're talking about, I was just talking to G about this earlier, 15 years with one team. That's like rare nowadays.
Very rare.
And we're talking, you got drafted in the 11th round, 1983 draft. I mean, coming out of UH, was that something that was that the next step you already knew was going to be your next step in football, was to go to the NFL draft?
Well, yeah, that's the dream of every kid, you know, but it's really hard because at that particular time, there weren't a lot of draft choices coming out of the University of Hawaii. So it was still in the pioneering stages. But you know, somebody had to, you know, trail the blaze.
Yeah, right.
You
So
know,
somebody
blaze the trail.
had to break the mold right there, right?
And for, you know, like the reason I'm here today is because, you know, we need to keep pushing that button. And
absolutely.
You know, when I played in the NFL, there were 4 of us, and then it went up to 6, and it went back down to 5. We got close to 100 now.
Yeah.
You know? And of course, including, you know, All-Pro Talanoa Hufanga.
Come on, we had Talanoa in here, and it's just, it's crazy how it goes full circle. When we were talking about Talanoa, he was like, yeah, Uncle Jesse's been a huge, you know, part of his success over there with San Francisco. And we're just talking about how everything comes, where you're talking about, we had a couple of players, Polynesian players in the league, and now it's kind of like where it's the norm. And now that how was it trying to be like one of the first Polynesian players to try to make it in the NFL?
Well, it was really special at that time because when you're a Polynesian and you're in the NFL, it was very, very rare at the time. But this was the picture.
Yeah.
You know, this is the vision that we wanted to get to. And there were 9 Polynesians that was involved in the Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
Including some of our practice squad young men. So, we're not going to relax. Because I think we have a talent for this particular sport, and the reach of football players. Big Cisco is there. I've heard stories of young women that go into interview for jobs in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And the CEO happens to be a 49er fan. And they see the skin color and where they come from, and they ask, and the kids said they come from Samoa or Hawaii. And the next question is, do you know Jesse Sapolu?
Exactly.
And it kind of opens the doors for them. So that's kind of the importance of things. That's when it opened my eyes. Hey,
Absolutely.
We can help young women and everybody else outside what we do. But football is the main sport that we're attracted to.
Take us back to draft day, 1983. Take us back to when did you get the phone call? Because it wasn't as extravagant as the draft is now. Now it was kind of like, oh, let me see if we made a team yet. Tell us about how when you got drafted by the Niners.
This is how humble my beginnings were with the Niners. The draft was one day. There were 12 rounds.
Yeah.
So the first round in New York was like 4 a.m. Hawaii time.
Wow.
I didn't
still sleep.
I didn't get drafted till 7 p.m. Hawaii time. And I got a call from the Philadelphia Eagles saying, hey, we were about to draft you, but the 49ers just drafted you a pick before us.
Wow.
So the 49ers didn't contact me until the next day.
So you didn't even know. Philly's like, oh, we were going to pick you, but the Niners, the Niners didn't call me.
Yeah. Exactly. And those are the things that I think about every day. During my 15 years with the Niners, it left that chip on my shoulder that I needed to prove myself and outlasted my whole class. Outlasted Roger Craig, who was our first pick, and everybody else. So it was something that I think it was to my advantage that it allowed me to keep that chip on my shoulder and keep going. But I always knew that there were Polynesian kids that were looking. Yeah. And that I need to keep pushing the button. And then some of those kids came on, like Junior Seau, and I ended up playing against them. So we all started from humble beginnings to get to where we are now, with all these 5-star Polynesian kids that are getting recruited right now.
And it takes us back to the humbleness of, just being a Polynesian. I said, you don't see like a Polynesian Deion Sanders back in the day. I mean, that's just to kind of put him to it, because we weren't all about the flash and everything. So just imagine if Jesse got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. We wouldn't even, this would be a whole different scenario. Do you ever think about that? It's crazy how God works, where you could have been in Philadelphia Eagle and a lot of stuff would have been different.
It would have been different. It would have been a culture shock for me, being in the East Coast. But God blessed me to be on the West Coast and be in California, in the city where there's a lot of Polynesians, that were 49er fans, and it made the transition a lot easier for me. And then, of course, we found success, and we became the team of the 80s and spilled into the 90s. We won another Super Bowl in those battles with the Dallas Cowboys. So, and that's how the 49ers became kind of like Samoa's team and Hawaii's team. Only because they saw a Polynesian that was on the team that was very successful. So, but now we cheer for all of our Polynesian kids until they play the Niners.
And I'm glad you said that, because I always say, I grew up a diehard Niner fan, and it had a lot to do with you being on the team. And now we look at it as like, we have the Marcus Mariotas, everyone that plays for different teams, where we're rooting for them. We're rooting for them, not the team, but we're rooting for them as an individual, because we're San Francisco 49er fans. But now it takes me back to what was the pressures of being kind of like the first Polynesian NFL? Was there any pressures coming in?
Well, there was a lot of pressure. On you personally and on your family, because I was the only Polynesian on the team. So when we win the Super Bowl, there's a lot of requests, to appear here. Please, you need to come speak here. And sometimes I speak to my African-American teammates. I'm like, you guys are lucky, you guys can share the burden. But for me, and I grew up with the Samoan mentality of having love for family, that I try not to turn anything down, and at the same time fit my training in, because all that is academic if I get cut from the team. So
exactly, because now that goes to the wayside if you do get cut.
Right.
But now you have the pressures of, like you said, I mean, people don't realize, like I'm in the entertainment industry, and I know exactly what Jesse's talking about, because all of a sudden you get cousins from everywhere that you ain't never heard of. Hey, can I get a ticket to the show, and vice versa? But like those pressures, I'm glad you brought that up, is because people don't see that part of it. Where you're one of the few Polynesian guys, you got all the islands asking for a ticket now.
Right.
and you like having to stay on the team because now if you get cut, now you felt like you failed the Polynesian people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and that was the pressure back
Yeah.
then. Yeah, because all eyes were kind of on you, and at that time, like right now, for me and you, we cheer for our Polynesian kids, but they're all over the place.
All over.
But we want the Niners to win every game, right? So, but back then, it's like I look down the schedule and we play a team maybe 5 weeks from now that had a Polynesian. And I look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I try to focus on one game at a time. But it's always in the back of my mind that I'm going to play a team when I can get to go over and shake his hand and get to know him. But it was once every 5 weeks or 6 weeks.
Because that was a rare occasion back then.
It was very
now
rare.
It's every week. Now you got somebody on the O-line and D-line. And it's just shows how it evolved from when you came to play in the 80s. So go back to that. And you being there with the Niners in the 80s, when did you start seeing that those teams were going to be special? Like when Joe Montana came in, when did you know that it was going to be a special era for you guys? Or did you know?
Well, we kind of knew because I'm the only, there's 6 of us that won 4 Super Bowl rings. The other 5 won the first 4. I'm the only guy that won the second 4. So I was at the University of Hawaii when they won their first one in 1981. Then they struggled in 1982. They missed the playoffs in that strike-shortened season.
Yeah.
So when we came in 83, they were still remembering 81, but they were concerned about 82.
82, yeah.
And we came in as an 83 class, and then we said, hey, we're not going to drop the ball. We're going to try to continue this thing. And then we won in 84.
Man.
And then, of course,
success came quick, Jess.
It came quick.
Yeah.
It came really quick. And 2 years ago when they said the Rams was the first team to win on their home, that's not necessarily true. We won at Stanford back in 1984.
Yeah, I always wanted to bring that up because I said, okay, it may not have been Candlestick, but we still were at Stanford, and we're still in the Bay Area.
If you're going to say home, that Bay Area was
it don't get no more home than that.
Right.
But having success early, going to the Super Bowl early, another pressure for you. Now you got to kind of maintain, even staying on the team, because now that everybody wants to be a part of that team, you're getting young, hungry talent coming in to the drafts upcoming. How do you kind of stay composed? Because if you guys look at some of the early pictures of Jess, he was like a bodybuilder on the O-line. I said he was one of those that you knew he didn't play around, but how did you kind of just say, let me maintain my focus by at least just staying on the team?
Well, because I understood that the reason I'm there is a blessing from upstairs, from God, right? And it's very, very difficult when you try to answer everybody's requests and not focus on what you needed to do, And, people ask me all the time, what do you think about in the locker room moments before you get introduced in the Super Bowl? I think about how I grew up in Samoa, man, when you didn't even get a ball to play with.
How you came a long way from Samoa to being introduced.
And, there's millions of kids in America that want to sit in that spot.
Yeah.
But yet God put me there, and I'm not going to take it for granted.
Yeah.
So, and I knew that once it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do everything in my power to stay as long as I could. And then hopefully by the time I leave, the next generation of Samoans and Polynesians are coming through to keep carrying the torch. And that's kind of what I did.
Yeah. And it takes us out the evolution of, where we were just doing linemen. You just doing Polynesian. Now we're going into the age of Tua Tagovailoa being a quarterback. Like you talk about making that transition. Like, tell us how you kind of seen that evolve as far as coming for just Polynesians being linemen to going into these skilled positions.
Well, Big Cisco, back even before I came into the draft, we had a 3rd pick in the draft. Jack Thompson.
Jack Thompson.
That was like our RG3 back in the day. And then it just got cut off.
Yeah. Because he was like one of the last poly quarterbacks. Like, what happened?
Right. And the only one that got drafted that high. So, but now, I mean, the fact that our parents can take their kids out of state and compete at other places, and Ngalu training his boys, believing that they don't have to be Jesse Sapolu.
Yeah, exactly.
They can be quarterbacks, and then we have DJ Uyangalele. And of course, Marcus Mariota was our first Heisman Trophy winner. And they got a couple more coming through.
Yeah. Oh, and I see them.
So very exciting times
Nico
for us.
over there at Tennessee
Right,
looks
Nico.
really good. Yeah, shout out Nico and the family, man.
And he's 6'5".
Yeah.
You know? So,
and we're not talking about no slouches. We're talking about some real quarterbacks with a nice arm, and
yes.
and it just shows the evolution. Like, and also going back to the 1983 Super Bowl. Like, what was your or 84 Super Bowl? What was the interaction with Joe Montana? Did you know he was going to be special?
Well, I knew it was going to be special.
Yeah.
You know, but when I came out of the locker room for my first mini camp, at that time we were training in Redwood City.
Yeah.
And I saw Joe throw the ball. I was like, my college quarterback had a nicer spiral than that. His arm did not just fly out and just blew you away.
Yeah.
But the accuracy was unbelievable. And the more I practiced, the more I appreciate the accuracy, the touch. You know, he wasn't blowing everybody away, you know. I know Phil Simms talked about it when Bill Walsh came to scout him in college. And he was trying to impress somebody, just
zipping the ball,
zipping the ball. And Bill Walsh was like, nah, easy. I need some touch.
Yeah, the accuracy.
Yeah. And that's what Joe was, you know. Because everybody talk about run after the catch with Jerry Rice and John Taylor. If Joe doesn't put it in the spot that allows them, the NFL DBs are too talented.
Yeah.
They'll shut you down if you got to reach back for the ball. And that's what separated Joe from everybody else. And then his attitude and his personality in the huddle. You heard that story about John Candy.
About during the Super Bowl, he's looking at John Candy at the end of the end zone.
And we're trailing with about 2 minutes and 3 seconds left, and we got 92 yards to go, and this guy, you know, doing a TV timeout is pointing out John Candy on the sideline. And when you know the driver of the bus is calm, I knew we were in pretty good shape.
I mean, when he's talking about John Candy, you guys are trailing at this point. That kind of told you guys, oh yeah,
it calmed us down.
Yeah,
it calmed us down. And all I was thinking about, Cisco, was, man, you know, there's a lot of Samoans and Polynesians watching this game. You can't be holding in a key situation. You know, they're going to leave a lot of messages on your answering machine. Thank God we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah, and it takes us back to social media. Like, when you guys were doing that, I mean, didn't have social media back in the day. And I always talk about, like, there's these stories about Super Bowls that we see on ESPN, and all these stories that are like viral stories. Tell us a story about Joe that people probably don't know about when you guys were playing together. Because you guys came real close. Because you were his main dude.
Yes. We, you know, Steve Wallace and I, you know, because at one, you know, they kept switching me back and forth. So I was a left guard in some of the Super Bowls. So Steve Wallace was a left tackle. So the first bus leaves about 3 hours and 15 minutes before kickoff. Yeah. But to us, that's not early enough. So we catch a taxi like 4 hours before the game kickoff on our own to get to the stadium. So Joe started catching the taxi with us.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's bumming a ride with us when he's making $5 billion at that time. So we played in Chicago in the NFC Championship game, and it was like 3 degrees, 31 below zero wind chill. And the driver kept looking to his right, because now Joe's sitting in the front. Steve Wallace and I are sitting in the back.
You guys ain't fit in the front,
And the driver kept looking at him and said, we're going to Soldier Field. So he took us to Soldier Field. The guy looks at Joe and goes, you look like you play football, you know. And it was so cold, we said to the taxi driver, can you drop us off as close as possible to the visiting locker room? This dude dropped us off on the opposite side of the field.
He knew what he was doing.
He knew exactly what he was doing, you know. And so, you know, that's some of the stories we had. And then when we traded him to Kansas City,
oh man,
you know, he knew that Steve Wallace and I catch a taxi early. Yeah. So when Steve and I got off of our taxi in Kansas City, and we're walking to the locker room, we got hit with grapes behind our heads. And it was Joe hiding behind the trash can.
Because he knew you guys were about
exactly
to show
the time that Steve Wallace and I were coming in, just throwing grapes, accuracy right in the back of our heads. And then he started busting up, coming out, you know, from behind the trash can. We shared some hugs, and then, and of course, that's one of 2 games we lost that year. We went on to win the Super Bowl.
And you talk about, like, we're talking about Soldier Field. We're not just talking about any Chicago team. We're talking about a team with Walter Payton, the Monsters of the Midway. Like, tell us about some of the competition as. In that time of the league, did a lot of people know what a Samoan was back then?
No.
Because they were like, oh, you must be a big Puerto Rican. Tell us about how that situation came about.
You know, it's just good. A lot of our kids now, a lot of our young men now don't understand when we played like in Cleveland,
Yeah.
at the old Cleveland Stadium, they call it the dog pound, right? So we're warming up, and I'm hearing those, hey, you pineapple head, where's your hula skirt?
That was going in.
Things that right now people would turn it political.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, it was fun.
Yeah.
It kind of helped motivate me. But I've heard pineapple head so many times because that's the only thing they could associate with me was pineapple, right?
Oh, and they didn't have Google back then, so they were just like, okay, what can we do? Hawaii pineapple. That was the only thing they came up with.
And every now and then you hear coconut head. So when you hear coconut head, then you knew, maybe this person visited Hawaii at some point.
They had to go there at some point in time to actually know what a coconut was.
Yes.
But having these interactions with these greats, and we're talking about the teams you were on, and you're a two-time Pro Bowler. The Pro Bowls came later in your career as well, but going to these different teams, nowadays salary caps kind of like dismantle teams immediately. You guys had the luxury of actually with the DeBartolos and how they handled it with Bill Walsh being there to kind of keep your team together at a time. Like, tell us about how it was with Bill Walsh and dealing with the DeBartolos as an organization that made it a fun place to play.
Well, there's a thing we call the 49er standard.
Yeah.
And, I spoke at Brock Purdy's Mr. Irrelevant dinner in Newport Beach.
Nice.
And I explained that standard that we had back in the day. Free agency came about because of Eddie DeBartolo.
Yeah.
Because when we came back from the strike in '87, we got a memo that if we win a division, he would double that money personally for all of us. And people hear about those stories. The 49ers were the first team for each player to have their own room. Before that, players would room with
they had roommates.
Right.
Yeah.
If we travel more than 2 hours, we were the only one that would charter wide-body planes, meaning, 2, 3, 2.
Oh, DeBartolo was doing it.
Right, DeBartolo was doing it. So, great players from other teams wanted to come to the Niners.
Yeah.
But there was no true free agency in the NFL. So, like for you, if you work 3 years, or you sign a 3-year contract, you work 3 years, and you're done in a regular job, you're done.
Yeah.
You're free to go.
Yep.
In the NFL, if I sign a 2-year contract and I play my 2 years, for me to go to another team, the team that you came from has to be compensated. So it's really not true free agency.
Wow, yeah.
Right. That's what. And a
it's
lot
crazy
of people
how the
fought
game's
for
changed.
that.
Yeah.
Right. And the exchange was, we'll give you true free agency, but we're going to have a salary cap.
Yeah.
That was back then.
So and that becomes the salary cap where everyone sees where they can't keep these powerhouse teams together all the time now.
Right. But the salary cap back then when we first started was like $54 million. Now it's like $345 million per team. I was born a little too early.
Exactly. I was about to say, do you look at some of these contracts now? It has to discourage older players. I always say this all the time, where you're like, man, they making money nowadays. Whereas opposed to when you were there, it was like, how come I wasn't making that money?
Well, the people before us were complaining about us.
Exactly.
I didn't get to $1.5 million, Cisco, until I got to my 9th and 10th year.
Yeah.
This guy's sitting on the bench right now making 2.5.
Not even playing.
Not even playing. Mike McClinchy just signed a 5-year, 87.
87. I said, what? I was like, Mike, go get your money, Mike. Get your money.
And I love Mike.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for him. But I'm like, so what is my worth today?
Yeah,
exactly. And but that's the days that we live in.
Yeah.
And, we thought Trent Williams was untouchable as far as his salary. These guys are passing him up now.
Come on.
So
Trent was a standard. Now it's like they're passing Trent. Like, okay, now there's just this money to be made on the O-line.
Right.
Now it's not that it wasn't a necessity. Now it's kind of like you got to protect your main investment in the quarterback, so you got to put money into the O-line.
Right. There's guards making $14, $15 million. And it's the age that we live in. You're happy for them, and the good thing about it is they're kind of remembering us when we do our union negotiations to take care of some of the guys that came before them. So I'm happy about that. Being
in the league and being on the team, and we're talking about Polynesian. How was Manu Tuiasosopo the first fellow teammate to be of Polynesian descent on the Niners with you, or was there somebody before that?
Yes, it was Manu that came. My second year, they traded him from Seattle to us, and then he won the Super Bowl with me. We both won the first one.
Come on, man.
And we're happy about that. Yeah. And it was good to have him with the Niners. But we also had Terry Totolo came to us for about a half a season. Then we released him, and then he signed with Miami. So there were a few that came through. There were quite a few that tried out that didn't quite make it. But But every time I see him in training camp, man, I'm happy to see him. Doing between practices, you get to eat and you get to identify with them as Polynesians and make training camp fun.
And it seems like you guys made it cool to know the Polynesians in the league. Like when you talk about the Jerry Rices, the Ronnie Lotts, and I ran into Ronnie Lott at a game. I think it was Sarah one time in the Bay Area, and he was like, "Oh, you Samoan?" Just for them to know that. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm Jesse's cousin." They always play around like that, where now they knew, and you guys kind of made it notarized for everybody to do that. Tell us about playing with Jerry Rice. When did you know he was going to be like one of those dudes as well, like Joe Montana?
Well, when Jerry came in, he suffered the dropsies a little bit early. But the one thing that you knew was his work ethic, and he kept pushing and pushing and we had, we always talk about if John Taylor was a #1 receiver somewhere else, he would have been.
I always say John Taylor's the underrated guy. He's the guy who's the odd man out, but he was the dude as well.
Oh, he was a dude, and when he dominates games, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
And we named him as the best athlete on the team. But what separates Jerry Rice from everybody else is his engine, man.
Yeah.
He just would not stop. It looks like somebody did something to him that he was going to make everybody pay. And that's, now and then I see Deion's highlights, and of course they're going to feature Jerry Rice on all the good plays. I'm like, but please show the other plays. Please show the many plays we come to Atlanta and blow you out, But that's what it is, nowadays. But that's what set, Jerry Rice apart from everybody else is his work ethic and his ability to carry us all the way through the fourth quarter.
I always be seeing Jerry at the game. You look like Jerry can still get in there third, fourth quarter every now and then. But going back to that as well, how did you transition when Joe had left and Steve Young was knocking on the door? I mean, Steve Young coming from BYU, he was just a different quarterback. Being a fan, kind of watching where he came from and him being, one of the early mobile quarterbacks and making you guys work a little bit harder. Because if you guys go and watch Steve Young's run, I think it was against the Vikings, Jesse was running all over the field. And I was like, look at Jesse still going down the field, but that was different than Joe Montana's era, where he was just a pocket passer. He wasn't going to do what Steve Young did. So when Steve Young came in, how did you guys transition to what his style of play was?
It was difficult.
Yeah.
It was difficult. I mean, Joe was kind of a running quarterback, but he ran when it was necessary. But he ran our offense the way it was supposed to be run.
Yeah, the way Bill wanted it to be run.
The way Bill wanted it to be run. When Steve came in, Steve was a Michael Vick of our time.
Man.
Nobody's seen anybody that can run like him. Now, the problem with Steve is he depended too much on his legs. Yeah. Right? And he got better and better and better. And when Steve won NFL MVPs, we didn't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So to us, that wasn't good enough, right? And we didn't have problems, talking to Steve firmly in the huddle because Steve sat on the bench for 3.5 years. So to us, we didn't know he was going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But you were the second quarterback, and now you come in. We're gonna speak our mind a little bit. Hey,
because you guys are the vets. You guys been with Joe. Now you kind of say, "Hey, Steve, calm your ass down a little bit."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to know where you're at, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't be thinking I'm doing a good job, and then I see you on my right shoulder. But Steve is such a hard worker, also, and a real competitor. That I was so happy to see him, throw 6 in the Super Bowl. But then again, Joe threw 5 against Denver in 3 quarters, and we took him out, right? So now we didn't know the rules were going to be changed and relax the rules as far as Ronnie Lott can't take your head off if you come down the middle. You can't mug receivers coming off. So, everybody talks about, Joe didn't throw for this many yards. Well, the rules were completely different.
And people don't know that. Like,
they don't.
Rules change every year, and then now if you just barely touch the quarterback, it's roughing the passer around, right? So back then they could take Joe's head off and nobody would say anything.
There's a highlight of me fighting Charles Haley because he held on to Elvis Grbac, and after 3 seconds after the whistle, and just lifted him up and planted him.
And Charles Haley, a big dude,
right? And that was kind of normal back then. We knew Charles was pushing the envelope a little bit, and then you saw Bosa last year,
man,
just kind of fall into the guy, and
they got
called for roughing the passer. Now, the biggest adjustment for me is sitting watching the TV, and a defensive guy makes a play, and I'm like, great play, and then you see a flag being thrown, right?
It has to be deflating, especially being a fan of the older football and kind of seeing that and seeing how the rules have changed, where they're protecting the quarterback and D lineman can't do that. You can't push off the line after 5 yards. It's just transitions. You're like, wait, what football is this?
Yeah, and that's the one rule that I wish the NFL would change, right? The defense worked so hard for 2 downs, and now it's like 2nd and 23, right? On 3rd down, the guy bumps him at 6 yards instead of 5 yards. Automatic first down, I would rather, call a penalty.
Give them their 5 or 10 yards.
Give them 5 yards, and now it's still 3rd and 18, because the defense worked so hard to get it to 3rd and 23. How are you going to let them get off the hook with a little bump?
A pity-pat foul. With a pity-pat penalty.
I have a problem with that, and I'm an offensive guy because I want the game to be exciting and be fair for everyone. But it is what it is, and I'm sure they're going to make things to make it a little better.
Yeah. And we see the game evolving now where I don't think Lawrence Taylor would have survived, and there's not a lot of these players. But speaking of players like Lawrence Taylor, who are some of the toughest defensive linemen and linebackers that you squared up against? Like, okay, this dude's the dog.
Well, a lot of them are dogs, but Reggie White was a real dog.
Me and G were just talking about Reggie White, where it was before the hybrid Bosa's days.
Right.
Reggie White, the preacher man, he was doing some things. So Reggie White was one of them, huh?
Oh, he was one of them because Buddy Ryan was a head coach, and Buddy Ryan was a defensive coordinator with the Chicago Bears. That defense that everybody talks about every year in 1985. They ran a Bear defense where they covered the 2 guards, and then they have the one-on-one with the center all by himself in the middle. Well,
so you was with Reggie?
Well, when Philadelphia ran it, Reggie moved from defensive end right on the center.
You like, Reg, go back over there, Reg. Reg, go back over to the end.
Every time I would break the huddle, boom, my eyes go to the right. I see his feet coming. I'm like, oh boy, and we would be meeting as we prepare for Philadelphia back in the day, and Bob McKittrick was like, "Well, Jess, you're from the island, right?" So you're used to being on an island, right?
Exactly. So I'm gonna leave you on the island with Reggie White,
right?
The Hall of Famer. Rest in peace.
We had, rest in peace. Yeah. Good brother. Then we also had the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
We had Chris Doman, who's a Hall of Famer.
Man.
John Randall, Keith Millard, Henry Talk. They were all Pro Bowlers.
Randall was a beast,
and they came to us 3 times in a row for the playoffs, and we kept sending them home. But those some of the tough lines. One of the toughest guys I ever played against, and I played against him in a lot of big games. It's a guy named Leon Lett.
Oh, Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys. They call him the Big Cat.
Yeah, come on.
Now, when you're 6'8" and they call you the Big Cat, and you're Polynesian with arms not that long, I mentioned that I started off as a running back in flag football. Well, that was the strength of my game is my feet. And
good feet.
And that's the only way I could stay with someone that's 6'8", that's quick as a cat.
Man.
But it was a challenge, man. I'm thinking about it all night before the game.
A lot of sleepless nights. Like, man, I got to go against Leon Lett tomorrow.
These are, and then of course he's on the same side with Charles Haley.
Come on.
And the last Super Bowl they switched me from center to left guard because of that.
So now you're on the side like, hey, put Jesse where Charles and Leon's at because maybe we'll have a better shot in hell for that.
Well, because we lost to them.
Yeah.
2 NFC championships in a row. Man. And then we needed, of course they took Chuck from us, and then we got Kenny Norton from them. It was almost like it
was swapping players at that time.
It's like a nuclear war between 2 of the most powerful teams in the NFL at the time. They were playing chess matches, and of course they moved me out so I could match up with Leon Lett, and we went and signed Bart Oates from the Giants to take my spot. Yeah. So. And I'm like, why are you guys moving me from my spot?
Move Bart over there.
Find someone in the draft, man. Yeah. I mean, that's not right. But but it's all about winning championships at the time and that's what fans remember us as. Cisco, there was a lot of fans that weren't even born at Levi Stadium when we were playing that still cheer us on like they belong. Yeah. They know the trophies and the history of the trophies.
Just the lineage
from their parents and from their cousins or older cousins that experienced those days, and that's a good thing. And I talked to Talanoa about that. I said, man, we need number 6.
Yeah.
I said, and the thing is, we've been close. But I said to Talanoa, if you guys win 1 or 2, they will look at you the same way they look at my generation. You don't have to win 5.
Oh, trust me. We've been spoiled, Jesse. We've been spoiled. I've been doing this quest for 6 for many moons. I'm like, where's the 6 at? So,
and the bad thing about it is we've been close.
Yes.
Right?
Too close. NFC championships and,
right.
the one with Crabtree that we lost, it was unfortunate. But those still burn to these days because when you come from an era where you're spoiled, where when it was in your era, we didn't lose Super Bowls.
Well, no, 5-0.
We were real rare for us to even to lose because we were blowing teams. You guys were blowing teams out like the Chargers and Denver. It was. I remember watching the Denver Super Bowl with my parents and by the first quarter, I'm like, I'm gonna go play outside. But I said, no, the Super Bowl's. I was like, no, they already won the game in the first quarter. But take us to the '94 one where Junior Seau was there. Big moment for you guys to be Polynesian players in the spotlight. Tell us how that whole thing took place. And did you and Junior have conversations before that to kind of say, hey, we're representing a culture right now?
We didn't have conversation, the 2 weeks before the game because we remember it was 2 weeks.
That's right.
There was a bye. But we did at the Pro Bowl the very next week. But it was a big moment for us, because, we talk about 9 players being involved in this past Super Bowl.
Man.
It was Junior and I, and it was the first time that 2 Samoans and 2 Polynesians went up against each other in a big game. And Junior's such a great athlete that he took chances. Yeah. Right?
Oh, man.
And there's a reason why Bob McKittrick drafted guys like myself and Guy McIntyre. You needed that quickness and that speed to stay with players like that. To play, stay with players like that. And we knew Junior took chances, right? And you remember the touchdown that Ricky Waters scored in the middle where he swapped at 2 safeties.
Because Junior took a chance on that one.
He took a chance on that one.
Picked the wrong side.
Right. So we ran 16 power, with me pulling, and I blocked Chris Mims. And then we ran 16 power again, right? And the first time we ran 16 power was a real run. Yeah. Junior was already across the line of scrimmage, right?
Oh, God damn it.
Then we ran another play. We ccame back with past 16 power.
Yeah.
Same action, except Steve was going to throw it to Ricky Waters coming out of the backfield. It was wide open because
Junior was already gone.
Right, Junior shot the gap. And we knew that we can nickel and dime him, and that was our game plan, and it worked.
Yeah, and it worked a little. I mean, that game made Junior look human.
Yes.
When otherwise he was, he was out of body. He was like the guy. Right. You didn't want to go against Junior. And I remember watching that game as a kid and watching it as a fan. It was like, it made Junior look, and rest in peace to Junior Seau, but the way you guys game planned for him, he kind of almost wasn't ready for it. Yeah. And when he was getting caught up and, Ricky Waters was like, oh, it was too easy. Then it was like, you guys just blew up. You just ran away with it. Right. At the Pro Bowl, where you guys know, like we go back to the pressures and everything, Junior Seau was like a household name at that time. And you were coming towards the end of your career. Were you kind of like not passing the torch, but kind of saying, hey, you kind of got to carry this on now that a lot of us, have been playing in this. Now it's kind of Junior's era. How did that conversation come?
Well, it was pretty interesting because, of course, we came from Miami and then we did the parade. Yeah. The very next day. We didn't sleep in Miami after the game.
Oh, it was straight. So, I was on Market Street at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, because the nice cold weather and, of course, close to 1 million fans out there on the streets kept you up. And then all the Pro Bowlers went straight back to the airport and we flew to Hawaii. And then the next day we took pictures. And the AFC would take team pictures and individual pictures, and the NFC would in the locker room. Yeah. And then we walked out, and I saw him, and I knew he was still hurting, and he was kind of walking away. I walked straight towards him, and I explained to him that the Chargers had some great teams, with Dan Fouts, John Jefferson. When I was coming up, when I was in college and in high school, and I said none of those teams made it to the Super Bowl, Jim. You guys were the very first ones, so you can be proud of that, And then of course we hugged, and then him and Guy McIntyre got into a fight during the game.
And you're like, dude, man, that's my guy.
So people complain about the Pro Bowl right now. Oh man, we played.
You guys were like the
hard.
few, because I remember watching Pro Bowl. I was like, look, when Jesse was in the Pro Bowl, it was still like a real game. Because when I seen Guy McIntyre and Junior Seau going at it, I said, look, these guys are not like the two-hand touch we got today. It was not like that when it was at the Olo Stadium.
That. Yeah, because the winner gets 30,000 and the losers get 15. And 30,000 was a lot to us. Yeah. These guys, they get paid like 60 and they're looking at it like it's $60.
And I was laughing because before we did this, I said, okay, look, It says on your Wikipedia you played 182 games. You started in 154. They showed your stats, and out of all those games, you have 1 fumble recovery. And I said, that's a stat that kind of stuck out to me. I was like, wait, that can't be, because especially with Steve Young and the way, so not that it's a stat game. Do you look at today's game as with the O-lineman? We're talking about how the evolution of the O-lineman is. You're looking at the Trent Williams, and you're looking like how the defenses with Talanoa goes on. What's your take on what today's game is, not just as a Polynesian player, but just in a whole?
Well, today's game is the NFL wanted more offense.
Yeah.
You know, because I guess it's exciting for the
sells
the
more
fans.
tickets.
Yeah, it sells more tickets. But I'm still old school in my way of thinking. You know, I still enjoy 2 great defenses going at it, but not too many times though.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand where the NFL is coming from, but it's a combination also of safety. You know, I mean, back when I was playing, you know, they
didn't care about your safety.
This is
back
how
then.
they check if you had a concussion. You know, they 2 fingers point to the tip of your nose, kind of thing, you know. And
so the protocol was a little different.
Oh yeah, you're back in the game. You're back in the game. Sis.
Yeah.
These guys, if they see you walking a little,
oh, they pulling you out, you're going to the blue tent.
They're pulling you out, you're going to the tent. You know, which, you know, you look at it, and I'm glad that the NFL has evolved in that with the protocol of the concussion thing. But man, I'm still old school in my thinking.
Come on.
You know, I still think the reason why the NFL is the #1 sport in America by far is because of that warrior mentality. Yeah. Right? People enjoy that. You know, like sometimes I think about it and I'm like, you know, there's a reason why 90,000 people are here to see Peyton Manning, to see Joe Montana. You know why? Because not many people can stand calmly in the middle of the lion's den and calmly throw an accurate pass. If anybody could do it, then nobody would come and watch, you know? And I want to keep it that way. You know, I want to keep it. I don't want it to get to the point where, you know, people think, you know, anybody can do it, because it's very difficult, especially at that level.
Yeah. Transition us to the Polynesian Hall of Fame that we got going on in Hawaii. Because I want to talk about that, how you just how did that whole idea even come about?
Well, you know, Cisco, I've been going to Samoa to do camps even when I was in college, like back in 1982. And then June Jones invited me to go on his Goodwill mission, which we take medical supplies and then we do camps. Yeah. And after that, we go from school to school in a school bus. So we were just talking, you know, reminiscing, you know, who was the first Polynesian to play in the NFL. And we found out the very first guy was Al Lolotai in 1947.
Oh, wow.
The first 49er team ever was 1946. So I didn't realize that you know, there was people before me that came through. And then as we were talking about it, and at that time our numbers were like, I just retired and our numbers were like up in the 20s.
Yeah. And still low for the standard.
Low, still low. And June Jones was saying, you know, it would be a shame if you guys forget the history, because now you guys are growing, and which is exactly right. Now we're close to 100. And he says, you know, you guys need to start something like a Polynesian Hall of Fame. Yeah. And he looked at me. I'm like, why are you looking at me? Because I knew it was going to be a big project, right?
Absolutely.
It wasn't going
going
to be easy. And he says, we'll help you out. Yeah. You know, we'll try to get it going. And we have a marketing company here from Vegas. And we wanted to do that. And the first thing we the first class was about 8 or 9 years ago. Yeah. We were going to do a dinner, right? And so the marketing company goes, we're going to do a real nice dinner. It's $250 a ticket. I look at him, I'm like, you know, you're talking about Polynesian. You know,
they're gonna start asking you like the game tickets. They're gonna ask for those tickets too,
right? You know, we do a church family night and you sell tickets for $20.
$20.
They start talking about you, you know. But they said, you know, if you want it to be special, and you want it to be respected, trust me, Jess, people will pay.
Oh man, I deal with that every day, Jess.
Right. So they were exactly right. You know, so the first year we had 350 people. I'm like, wow.
All these people paid $250.
Right. So now we're about 1,100 for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And the ticket's $300, right? But we have sponsors. Yeah. Big sponsors that pay a lot of money for their tables. And then, you know, when we got to year 3 or 4, we wanted to connect the future and the present for them to look at the past, the people that, you know, that kicked that door down for them to have these opportunities.
Came before them, and now they're in
then
position.
we started an all-star game. And I told these guys, come on, man. The dinner alone was tough. And then we built a Hall of Fame at Polynesian Cultural Center,
BCC.
which was not an easy negotiation also. But in the first 2 years, we streamed it, and we only televised it locally on TV in Hawaii. But then when the kids came back and they tweeted about their experience, we got a lot of hits.
Yeah.
And then we took that presentation to CBS Network. And thank God they took us on. So we signed a 3-year deal with them. And then we went to Roger Goodell in the NFL this past year and showed our numbers. Hey, we're on a per capita basis. Polynesian kids, especially Samoans, are more likely to make it in the NFL than any other race.
Yeah.
But Polynesians like 38 times more than any other race on a per capita basis. They looked at those numbers and they took us on. So
that raised an eyebrow. They were like, they had to raise an eyebrow. We're going, okay, now you got the numbers to back it up. And okay, now you're doing something, and I think that's what it took. And for them to kind of just say Roger Goodell, and now you guys are NFL Network.
Right.
Tell us about that deal.
Well, we're proud of that because we're the only high school all-star game that they took on, and the great thing about it is we did it on a Friday at 4:00 Hawaii time because we wanted people from New York to watch it. The halftime show was off.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful.
Kamehameha High School.
Yeah,
it really represented. Yeah, it represented our Polynesian culture, the different islands, and that's what we want people to know. But the game is 51%. You got to have Polynesian blood. Yeah. At least that's the goal. And then the other 49% allows us to go and get kids that will be in the NFL in 3 to 4 years.
Exactly. Right? And to have that experience.
Have that experience.
Yeah, to be in this
one of the most impactful experience that we have. Of course, the Polynesian Cultural Center, they love that. But when we take them to Pearl Harbor, and some of our black kids realize how many black lives were lost from the bombing of Pearl Harbor, they walk back onto the boat with tears.
Yeah.
And that hits me here because I'm thinking, wow, this is a whole lot deeper than just the game. But that was the goal. And of course, we teach the same haka to all the different, and some of these kids, when they go to the NFL, they'll always remember the Polynesian hospitality, and which is what we're all about. We're about respect and humility and how we treat people, the way they want to be treated. Yeah. And that's what our culture is based around. And of course, family is number one. Yeah. And we're people of faith. So those are the kind of things that we want to share. Yeah. And it's getting there.
And I think with the one good thing about the social media era is that we are able to visit things like this and get the word all across the world in a little bit easier way than it was back in the day. Now you can, celebrate the greats like yourself and a lot of people like Jack Thompson that came before by posting. I always see these, they got NFL Pacifica that they have an Instagram page and they always kind of like go back to the old school videos where a lot of kids nowadays didn't know about that stuff. I was like, oh, the game is different now. Oh no, they don't know it until they see a social media post. Yeah. They see an Instagram post where I'm kind of glad that they do use that platform the way they're using it, where we can get the word out about the Polynesian Hall of Fame Bowl and all those things like that. But like seeing Nico play and seeing the future of the NFL, like you're talking about not just Samoan kids, you're talking about Tongan greats like Halotingata and you got Troy Polamalu still coming to the game where we're talking about these are like legends still giving back because of what our culture does with our players and our people.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And as much as we complain about social media sometimes, we're glad that they still have footage of us.
Like all black and white water. They have the NFL films on there. Shout out the Sable family. We're gonna need a little bit more of those. But transitioning from Polynesian Hall of Fame to the NFL Hall of Fame. We got Kevin Mawai, we got Junior Seau, Troy Polamalu in there. We got to get Jesse in there somehow, some way. But tell us how that impact of having those players in the NFL Hall of Fame, kind of just as you as a player, kind of seeing that transition. Okay, now we're starting to get the notoriety. Tell us about when they got the nod to be in the National Football Hall of Fame.
Well, it's very, very important. Yeah. I was at Junior's induction, and with his daughter. Yeah. And I'm just, I was hurting here because I wish he was there. Yeah. And then of course, with Troy, I was planning to go. Everything was planned to go to Troy's induction, and then we heard that he said he was positive. Yeah, he was COVID positive. I'm like, we're not going all the way down there, and Troy can't be there. And then we realized they made an exception. You know how it is, right? Yeah. and Troy was there. Kevin Mawai, we sent him gifts. You know, we're very proud of those guys. And they're, you know, it makes our kids look at them and say, hey, we can make it there also. You know, I did an interview this past week to try to promote Roger Craig to get into the Hall of Fame. You know, the thing that we question, Cisco, is how does the Buffalo Bills that are 0-4 have as many people
come on, Jess,
as the guys that went 5-0?
Yes.
You know, the thing that they need to look at, and I was nominated 2 years ago finally to go into the quarterfinals. They need to dig into people that sacrifice. You don't win these championships by having 53 guys that all want to go to the Hall of Fame. You got to have guys that sacrifice to make these teams the special teams that they are. And that's where we are as the 49ers. And, you know, I'm involved with our alumni. And we're trying to push to get more of our guys into the Hall of Fame.
Tell us about how you continued your, we talk about alumni, and, you know, me being a fan for all my life and going to the games and seeing Jesse, you still with the organization as the alumni are kind of like, look, I've walked around Levi Stadium with Jesse. He's like the owner. I'm talking about from security staff to people selling the hot dogs. Everybody know who Jesse is over there. But tell us, I mean, that just comes from your lineage and what you did for the team. But now being an alumni, and I see Charles Haley eating, you know, the all-you-can-eat buffet, and I see Steve Wallace and Guy McIntyre, a lot of these guys, Ricky Waters walking around. Tell us how this alumni position for you has kind of like gave you the opportunity to, you know, kind of mentor people like Talanoa and players like that. Tell us about that.
Well, they call me, you know, I live in Los Angeles, right? But, you know, they call me with the position to be the director of alumni. But I said, no, I'm not living in LA unless, you know, of course, you tell me a salary that would allow me to move my family. But they said, but we still want you to be involved in some capacity. So, you know, they send me all over the place. I went to Mexico twice.
Yeah, I seen that, Mexico City.
To do promotions for the Niners. I think they choose you if you handle yourself with class off the football field, and then you have the pedigree on the field, combination of both. And those are the kind of guys that they choose to represent the organization. It was great for me, Cisco, because, you know, when you retire, you know, when you see us retire as professional athletes and you see them cry, we're not crying only because we just retired from professional sport, football. We've done this thing since we were 10 years old. So to us, we got paid later, but that's all we knew, right? And
that's all you know.
Right. Yeah. And you get coached up like push past this. And then all of a sudden they say, no, you're not good enough anymore. It makes you feel like your family left you after all these years. So the first couple of years, I didn't even look forward to July because I knew my body says, hey, it's training camp. You know, so I played 36 holes of golf. You know?
Hey, Jesse still look good. Jesse still look good for being a retired NFL veteran.
For a long time. But I'll send you the check in the mail for, you know, I ask you to please.
So we got that one off the checklist that Jesse sent me. But like we're talking about like my Brandon Manu Maluna. We're talking about, you know, his dad Frank that just passed away. These guys, you know, Brandon playing 10 years in the league. Like they're saying after when they leave the game, it's tough. You know, either you go into coaching or even the people that are not going to, all you knew was the NFL. All you knew was football. But now you kind of just further where he's, you know, head coach of Losing and you're kind of doing your thing with the lineman camp. Mitt, tell us about how staying in the game is important for people that's been in the game for so long.
It's very important from a mental health standpoint. Because like I said, you know, if some of these guys weren't prepared for life after football financially, the combination of missing the game, and then all of a sudden you have no money left.
It's a bad combination.
It's a disastrous combination, you know. And I'm involved with the Niners with that. You know, our union try to help a lot of these guys financially. But we also have what we call the Golden Heart Fund, and I'm involved in that. Golden Heart Fund was just a thing that was put together by Ronnie Lott, Brent Jones, some of these guys, to raise funds just for our own 49er alumni guys that need you know, financial assistance. And it's one of the most rewarding things that I do. So you know, we do a 50-50, you know, we sell tickets.
The 50-50 raffles at the game.
Raffles at the game. So I motivate the people that go out and sell and tell them about the history and the sacrifice some of our guys that are in trouble a little bit financially. and how critical and important their job is. And you know, we raise around 80 to 100,000 a game.
Come on, man. Come on.
So that's a great thing, and but it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because when your engine's been revved up since you were young, and then they tell you to turn it off, and some people, they love playing in front of millions of people on television, 90,000 people in stadiums, and they ask you to turn that off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a major adjustment.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's almost a culture shock. Like, wait, we can't play in front of a crowd no more?
It is.
Yeah.
And the depression comes from
absolutely
a lot of those guys. You know, when we win Super Bowls, man, I don't pay for any meals in San Francisco. You know, you go to clubs.
You're the man.
You go to clubs, and people appreciate what you do. And that's why I live in L.A., and that's why I keep my kids in L.A.
Yeah.
Because when I bring them up too much, I don't want them to see.
Yeah. You want to see all the perks.
Yeah, unrealistic lives. You know, that it's an unrealistic lifestyle. You know, because I knew at some point it was going to stop.
Yeah.
And I needed to prepare my kids that way.
And I think it's important. We talk about, like, you know, after the game, financial literacy. We had this conversation the other day, is a huge thing with not just NFL players, just as a culture alone. I think, you know, nothing to take away from school, but I think if they had financial literacy and taught us how to do the taxes, how to do interest rates, that a lot of these players that do come into money, that didn't come from money, know how to spend the money and know where to put it in investments. Like, and I see that with, I was talking to Talanoa about it too, you know, because he's going to have a big contract coming up. He's talking about a Pro Bowl year, and now he's still on his rookie contract, where these kids nowadays, they're getting paid stupid amounts of money that I'm just kind of sitting there like, wow, you know, Talanoa's 23. And I'm sitting here, I had him in there, I'm like, he's a kid that's getting, you know, we talk about too much too soon, where in our culture, we're not used to too much too soon in that kind of capacity. So now with you guys having vets like you kind of saying, you look, Polynesian Hall of Fame, this is what you should do. And this is kind of like, you know, because mental health is a huge thing. And it takes us back to doing what you guys are doing now with the mid camp. They didn't have these camps back in the day. No. They didn't have these lineman competition, because it was all about the 7-on-7 guys. Right. Tell us how the whole lineman culture kind of came into your lap to kind of, okay, Jesse got this mid camp. Tell us about how that all came about.
Well, I started coaching my sons in high school.
Yeah, shout out Roman.
You know, and Roman and his older brothers. You know, it was an adjustment for me because, you know, they sacrificed themselves for my career. Now I have to be the dad, right?
Yeah, now you're dad.
And I had to come back in, and I had to acclimate myself. You know, the one thing that was easy for me was being a football player.
Yeah.
I didn't know what kind of dad I was going to be because my whole focus was
on football.
And I realized that the financial rewards was to take care of my kids. And when I did that, Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, those guys came from Orange County. They did quarterback specialized camps. And I'm like, and then when I coached high school, there's some kids that didn't even know what a three-point stance was.
Come on, Jess.
And I'm thinking, okay, well, do you know how much detail goes into playing an offensive line to keep the guys back here?
The footwork, the hand placements,
So I started coaching my sons, and then they started inviting their friends, and those kids become really good. I started coaching kids that came from Japan. One was a first-team All-American this past year for SC.
Wow.
The center, Brett Nealon, came to me as a 7th grader. And that's when, you know, but when I first introduced it, you know, coaches from other schools were like, we don't want to send our kids to Jesse.
Yeah.
Because he's going to say, who the heck taught you that stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's the insecurity. They had that insecurity.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, people thought, hey, it was easy. Jesse can just snap his fingers and kids will come.
Yeah.
No, it took a little while for them to understand.
Oh, a lot of ego with the coaches. I don't want to be able to. Well, who taught you this? Hi, coach. How you doing?
That was their assumption that what my attitude was going to be.
And that definitely wasn't what it was. Yeah.
No, well, for me is if you have an adult that's spending 4 hours to help mentor someone else's kid, hey man, I respect you.
Yeah.
You know, and then we started that, and then all of a sudden it started growing. Now coaches started feeling comfortable because they hear stories. Oh, Jesse's very easygoing. He doesn't yell at the kids. He takes his time just teaching fundamentals, because men in the trenches, you know, people think, oh man, we go to Jesse, he's going to teach us 10, 11 different techniques.
Yeah.
No, we're going to teach you fundamentals.
The basics.
Because everybody has a different system.
Yeah.
But I believe that if that player comes to you fundamentally sound, so much faster for you to start coaching that kid, because they can adjust to your system.
Yeah.
Because they already know how to do the basic stuff to begin with.
Yes.
You don't even have to deal from the ground level. So that's how MIT started. And that's our belief system. You know, people think that we teach all this fancy stuff. Now, I know kids that are ahead for their age.
Yeah.
I will push them personally.
Yeah.
But at MIT, everything's fundamentally sound. So we schedule it like 12 Saturdays.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe you can go to a camp for 1 or 2 Saturdays.
And just be able to soak all that knowledge up.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
There's a muscle memory involved
You got to create a habit.
When you become a great player, when you just don't think anymore, you just go.
Yeah.
That's when you separate yourself from the rest. When you think, it's too late, especially if you start climbing the ranks. So that's what MIT is. We schedule it for 12 weeks. We make it affordable. You know, it's $40 a Saturday for 2.5 hours for your son to come learn the techniques, and then we have a little competition at the end. I have a granddaughter that plays softball, right? So if you come to MIT for 12 weeks at $40, you're looking at $480, right? I just bought a bat for my granddaughter.
It's about the same price.
That plays $500. You know, $500 for a bat for a 10-year-old girl.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking, but football scholarships is the best by far.
Yeah.
Football scholarships are the best by far. So to me, I've laid out an opportunity out there. If you come, then great. If you don't, then that's also on you.
And it's beautiful because I think importance of what you're doing, because like you're saying, there's so many different systems in college and the pros and what they're doing, and even high schools where they're playing at. The fundamentals are everything.
Yes.
You have the quarterback camps, you have the speed camps for the running backs and wide receivers. This is something that's it's catching on like wildfire. We're starting to see a lot more kids that are linemen, because always the big kids are always the odd man out, right?
Yes.
So even when you have like Pop Warner, or you're too heavy, you can't play on this team, you got to play on the older team. Where I just seen the evolution of what you're doing with MIT, where you're starting to have these organizations like Stag and all these people that's doing the lineman camps, that now it's a competitive level. Now with social media, now you got the viral videos of the big Polynesian kids going one-on-one, where the competition level at this age is priceless, as opposed to what they're paying $40 and whatever they're paying to kind of drive them into the right direction. Now you're seeing more successful linemen getting the scholarships to the colleges, getting drafted and things. So it comes full circle. So that's why I wanted to say thank you for the MIT program and everything that you do for the game, because now it takes us back full circle to what our Niners are doing right now. So before we get about it, we got to talk about the state of the 49ers now. I talk about on Gridiron Junkies with my boy G over there. Yep. I'm the Niners analyst. So I say, hey, you want to talk about Niners analysts? We got Jesse coming in with the Brock Purdy situation we were just talking about. What is your whole take as being, affiliated with the Niners with the quarterback situation?
Well, I don't know if I was more sad losing the game or more sad seeing Brock Purdy get hurt.
Absolutely.
Because I truly believe we found somebody.
Yeah.
And not saying that Trey Lance, it doesn't have potential. Yeah. Of course, he has great potential. But Brock Purdy came in, and when Jimmy got hurt during the Miami game early, like the first drive of the game, you could just feel the air come out of a lot of people.
Not gonna lie, Jess, I was wondering, like, what, Purdy? Who, Brock, who? Mr. Irrelevant? Yeah, when Jimmy went down, there was no high expectations of Brock, but he proved us all wrong.
Yeah, I was very impressed during preseason for someone that was drafted that low to come in and straight out.
Oh, so you kind of seen the tangibles early.
Yeah, I saw it early in preseason. The thing that excited me was he had some athletic ability. He has some Jimmy G in him.
Gritty white boy right
athleticism.
there. Yeah, yes.
With athleticism.
That's what I noticed.
And I'm like, wow, this kid has a shot. I didn't know they were going to choose him over Sudfeld. Because, Sudfeld showed some potential a little bit, but he straight up beat him out. And I knew that there was something to him. I didn't know he was going to be put in that situation right away. But, man, he came in against Miami, and as soon as he came in against Miami, they threw the kitchen sink at him.
Yeah.
I mean, they were coming. There was one pass to George Kittle. I think it was 3rd and 12, and he got hit right in the face, and he hit George in stride, and we got a first down. Little things like that. Cisco, I kind of think back about why Joe was separated from everybody else, was those kind of plays, and I knew we had something there. But I was still thinking, okay. Yeah, he showed some great potential. We won the Miami game, and at that time, Miami was 8-3, I think. They
were strong at that time.
Right, they were strong. And of course, the very first play of the game, the guy took it 80-something yards. And then Purdy came in, and we won the game by 2 touchdowns. And then I think the very next game he played against the greatest, in a lot of people's minds,
Yeah.
the greatest of all time, and won decisively, 35-7. The thing that really makes me say that Brock, if he's healthy, is our guy. It's the first time I felt comfortable going to Seattle and beat him.
Man,
there was no no drama.
Yes,
we knew Purdy was in control.
Yeah,
they were lucky they were even close. Right?
The comfort level was there when Purdy at that point was like, man.
When we went with Jimmy, which Jimmy was great too for us. But it was like squeezing all the way.
Hey, shout out Jimmy. Hopefully he does well with the Raiders too. But his awareness, I always rate people on the Madden rating system. His awareness was about a 42. Purdy's was a little bit higher as Mr. Irrelevant, where take nothing away from Jimmy G. It's just I always clinched when he was in the pocket, and you always like, why didn't he just, So hopefully his awareness level goes up a little bit with the Raiders. But Brock Purdy, do you think he can come back from this injury?
Well,
it's a tough injury.
Yeah, it is a tough injury, but the hope is a lot of people have come back from it. Now the challenge is the timetable. Because some people say, he can start throwing in 3 months.
Yeah.
In 6 months, he'll be ready to go. For me, I would give him an extra month or two. It's worth the investment to sit back and make sure that he's completely healthy, because I think we found someone. The difference between Brock Purdy and Jimmy is that Brock is able to step it out of trouble in certain situation and still throw the ball. With accuracy.
Yeah.
The greatness of Jimmy was he wasn't afraid to attack the teeth of a defense. Now that makes a squeeze.
Yeah. I squeezed a lot.
Some of those passes are like, wow, he got it in there. But he got it in there. You'd rather have that than a quarterback that starts throwing 2-yard gain and we're frustrated because we don't score any points, So we're very thankful of what Jimmy did. I think Trey, the jury's still out.
Yeah.
But I think Brock has proven himself enough. If healthy, he will be our guy.
What do you think about our O-line right now? With losing McGlinchey and Brunskill, and I was like, why are we losing all these O-line? Maybe it's the nature of the game, but you try to keep as many key pieces as you can, and and nothing against McGlinchey. I was squeezing the same with Jimmy. I was squeezing with McGlinchey as well. So I wasn't sad to see him go, but once he does go, you realize how important that position is.
It is.
That tackle position, you're protecting your investment, as you can see, gets our quarterback hurt. But what do you see the state of our O-line right now?
Well, we got a hit in the draft.
Yeah.
We got 2 young guys that played guard last year. We brought our center back.
Yeah.
Trent is the leader of that group, but we need to find a right tackle that's serviceable.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be completely dominant, because if we do find someone that's dominant, then our chances of getting to the Super Bowl just goes up a lot.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, I think we have a really good offensive line coach. I think sometimes, people think the best lines are the 5 most talented individuals. I think it's the 5 guys that can read stuff in a matter of a second and a half to 2 seconds. Quick. Yeah. That's the key, because you got to work together as a group more than any other group on the football field.
Take us to the other side of the ball. We have the Defensive Player of the Year in Nick Bosa, and you have our guy, Talanoa, having a Pro Bowl year. And losing key pieces like, Aziz and stuff like that. And
Jimmy Ward.
And I still think they have the key core of the defense that can kind of get us to where we need to be. What's your take on Talanoa and the defense?
Well, Talanoa, made major strides from his first year to his second year. The idea is for him to even get better, because he's now one of our leaders on defense. Our defensive line, we signed a guy from Philadelphia that I really like.
Hargrove.
But the thing about it is, if that salary cap was available now, we would never lose DeForest Buckner.
Oh man, don't remind me, Jesse. Nah, I'm still grieving over that. Shout out Kinlaw, but he's no Buckner. But but yeah, I think about that every day. But we're still to this day filling the void of Buckner, and him being also a Samoan player and Polynesian player as well. It was tough to see him go.
Yeah, it was tough because he was a leader.
Yeah,
he was a great
on that defense,
great attitude leader. And imagine one guy 6'6", one guy 6'7", him and Armstead in the middle. It's
Twin
like
Towers.
it's like two Leon Letts.
Yes.
In the middle of that line. But I think the guy from Philadelphia is going to do
Yeah.
a great job for us. We lost some defensive ends.
Yeah.
Epicamp and
Yeah.
And that's that's
many
how it is
too.
now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be McClinchy at $87 million.
Yeah. Come on.
And he knows that a lot of the Niner fans, they always pressure him. They always say, "Hey man, if McClinchy
I was one of them. I was one of them.
I mean, he's probably thinking, I'm going to take my $87 million and run.
He's like, see you guys later. I got $87 million. I will go protect Russell for a little bit.
But I think our D line, when they become even more dominant, our back end is going to be more dominant. It goes hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Losing a C's is going to hurt, but I think our two guys, Warner and Greenlaw, they're studs, man. Those guys can run, and I think we can find a linebacker that can come in and be serviceable to work with them.
Or draft one, Henry Toto, my nephew out of Alabama. You never know. If we get him, he falls into there, he might fit right perfectly in there.
Well, and Henry's game kind of fits.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Not a real big
but I don't
guy.
want to get the other teams on him because I don't want them to be lost before he gets there. But yeah, I think Henry would fit perfect into that. I mean, and it goes back to we are talking about Henry and what the Polynesian culture has brought to the game. You have a middle linebacker like Henry. You have Sewell at Oregon, where now they're household names in college, in high school, where DJ was coming from high school as well, where there's so much social media and notoriety with NIL deals and everything, where you guys were at the forefront, just doing this for where it was two people in the league or two people on a team, where now you're over hundreds. And people are going to Samoa to go trying to find talent. Coaches are, hey, let's go to Samoa, try to find some of these kids that are playing football, where you guys were at the forefront. I mean, we talk about the Jack Thompsons and people before you guys, but still you guys are at the forefront and still putting work into the game now. And got to be appreciated for that, Jess.
Well, but it's also fun for us to see our young men. We got to mentor them also because all that money is great, but if they step out of line, social media, they might not be there, right? So we enjoy doing that work. But, Cisco, one of the things that I do is after the final cut, I'm the guy that speaks we bring in the parents of the rookies that made the team, and then we speak to them about the importance of easing off, because as soon as families of these rookies know they made the team, everybody got their hand out. Right?
Now everybody's uncle and auntie that needs something.
So of course that's going to put a lot of pressure on the player, and when the player gets stressed out, the performance on the field is affected, which is the brand, right? The 49ers. So I speak about that. I never thought I would have to deal with that situation with 17-year-olds.
Yeah, come on.
The NIL right now, unbelievable.
Yeah, they're making money in the NIL right now.
And some of our parents, our Polynesian parents, they're stressed.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them, I met with some of them, and I'm like, if you're going to be stressed out, then all this is not worth it.
For nothing,
I said, enjoy it. We understand. You're getting calls, 30 calls a day from different sharks that want to
pulling from everywhere. Yeah.
Right. I said, it's part of the new process. We're all new to this, but you need to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lineman now.
Yep.
That signed with Miami, $5 million.
Wow.
I looked at it with the breakdown of some of the things, and I said to Lisa, that's the kind of money I was looking at my 10th year. My 10th year in the NFL, and here's this 17-year-old.
17-year-old getting
that
$5
hasn't
million.
even, taken a class yet.
No.
But that's the day we live in, and it makes it even more critical for guys like myself at my age just to be mentors.
And they need that guidance. I think they need that guidance because we talk about too much too soon. If they don't have guys like yourself and guys that are giving back to the game, that everyone that we're talking about, they're lost in the shuffle. Right. And it's too much too soon, and it can get lost that quick.
And you can get lost. But the thing is, because I speak Samoan, fluently, so when they hear me speak in our language, it kind of calms things down a little bit. But at the end of the day, I try to remind them, hey, enjoy it. Enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, then all this is not worth it.
Absolutely.
The other stuff, let's take it slowly and look into things to make sure that you guys are comfortable. Like the things that my goal with this thing, Cisco, is like when our kids come through, I want the parents to interview 6 different agents before they choose one.
Don't go for the first one.
I don't want them to. I don't want these sharks to force them to go with who they want.
Yeah.
I want them to choose whoever they're comfortable with, right? So that way they have a choice. So if any mistakes have been made,
it can be corrected.
It can be corrected, absolutely. So little things like that, that I kind of enjoy sharing my experiences with them. And the great thing about it is I'm still involved in the system with the 49ers, so I know and I see what's going on to at least give my 2 cents to try to help them.
Come on, they need that guidance. They need that mentorship that they have in you, Jess, man. Appreciate you coming over here and spending some time with us. Because this right here, I'm telling you, if you a lineman and you watching this podcast, a lot of gems were told on this, but 15-year vet and all with the 49ers, which I'm very happy about. Before we get about, how is it so easy, not easy, to stay with one team? Were you had opportunities to go to other teams?
Yes, I did.
And you stayed?
I had a chance to go to the Dallas Cowboys, but I wasn't going to have my kids bleed 49er at school and fight against other kids, and all of a sudden their dad goes to the Cowboys.
Come on, that's loyalty
I
right
think
there.
I could have played 16 years, maybe 17, but I think the Cowboys were just trying to pick my head, because the center make all the calls, and at that time the competition was between Dallas and us, and I think it wasn't worth me going there, to lose everything that I built with the 49ers, and it's something I'm very proud.
I was about to say, another gem.
One helmet.
One helmet.
That's it.
And it's rare these days. Jesse Sapolu, 15-year veteran, San Francisco 49ers to the heart. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and we'll see you on the next one. Dos Caras Tequila, your boy Big Body Cisco. See you on the next Western Conference podcast. Peace.